Challenge your potential and the sky's the limit. Join me, Emily Ibbott, in a diary to empower. From a starting point of a love for dance, my life has evolved, but along the way, I've learned so much in how we develop, learn and grow from those around us to elevate us even further on. Be inspired and be open to learn, and no limit will ever exist. Come along with me on my own journey in personal development, but with guests who have empowered me and are still doing so in my own journey. Hello and welcome back. We are in a slightly different location today, which is quite nice. We're in this little room and I have the amazing Steve with me.
Hello. Hello.
So Steve is, well, I don't know, how did we,
how did we meet?
Yeah, I guess so.
It was shortly after lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And I signed up and we started working at Jets. And then I guess we got to know each other better because I went, there isn't anybody that can help me with my dog, is there? And
obviously I volunteered. So I look after Steve's doggo, and Steve is now actually one of my clients who is on his own mega journey, and it's so exciting. And yeah, we're just obviously going to share a little bit more insight to Steve's background into, I guess, fitness as a whole.
Yeah.
And like your perception of it and how the outlook has changed entirely. Now, Steve used to be a strongman.
Amateur though, amateur first timer, but yeah. I did train to do it because I think one of your episodes previously, you sort of mentioned where you get a little bit, what am I doing? What am I training for? And I did stuff like the Spartan race, the Bear Grylls race, which I don't even know if that's still going, to be honest.
What does that entail?
It's just obstacle running, isn't it? So it's just distance. Yeah,
savage.
But I'm no good with the heights. So when I did the Bear Grylls one, I got to the top of the cargo net and I was a mess. And I think absolutely everybody overtook me at that point. And at the top of that cargo net, I was going, what am I doing? And I still had 5K to go.
Because you're in it, you can't really stop.
Yeah, once you're in it, once you're up there, you can't do anything. I'm stuck. That is it. I am there at the top of that net. And then I just got a little bit lost. You just don't really know what you're doing. And
how long did you do all of that for?
Probably about 4 years, I think it was.
And did you do training before that?
Yeah, I've always sort of trained on and off, but it's been that sort of, I should go to the gym. And that's really all it entailed. It didn't really, there was no target. Yeah,
and I think that's similar for a lot of people. Like, I think everyone's like, oh, I should go to the gym just because I should go to the gym.
Yeah.
Without actually sort of having, like, you've got to have you've got to enjoy it and have a reason behind it as well.
Yeah, and I think actually lately, or since I decided, well, doing the Spartan and then doing the Bear Grylls, because I had to up my cardio and learn how to run and do all those sort of bits.
Yeah, it's a whole nother ball game.
It is, but then after that, probably because of the heights, I didn't like the heights. I needed something else and I never found anything. I just sort of floundered.
Yeah, and you did all the stuff with like the logs and all of that as well. Was that all part of that sort of thing?
No, that's when I basically discovered it's Paul Smith, who's a friend of a friend. He's currently UK's strongest man. And I didn't realise that one lady that I knew, she was doing Olympic lifting.
Yeah.
And we just got chatting and she was at Sheffield Hallam. There's a few people from Sheffield Hallam now that are in GB teams and stuff. And she mentioned Paul and I thought, oh, this sounds all right. What, he does online coaching, does he?
Yeah.
So I ended up doing online coaching with Paul.
For the strongman side of things.
For the strongman side of things. Cool. And I'd always watched it. It's like it was always like a Christmas tradition for us, through New Year. So World's Strongest Man would be on TV and you'd sit and watch it. So I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And I was heavier. I would be, back then, I'd be 23 kilos heavier than I'm sat now.
Oh, gosh.
So about 124 kilos. And that's it. I started doing the training with Paul. I said, this is what I want to do. And away we went. And yeah, I was training for comps.
That's so cool.
And
I could never.
Well, you could. I mean, the unfortunate thing for me is COVID got right in the middle of it. So we're only going back 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And it is intense. The training is extremely intense. It takes a lot out of your body, even at that level. How the pros do it. Well, I sort of know how they do it because they spend a fortune on recovery and massage and support and everything else, and they have to keep themselves going, because it is literally just brutal. It's heavy intensity all the time.
So how would you explain, because there are probably a lot of people that are like, what is strongman? How would you explain, like, just explain a few of the exercises, shall we say, like, obviously, and the intensity of it. Like, in my mind, all I think of is these massive, you've got what they call, they are the logs, aren't they?
They are the logs, yeah.
And you've got to, like, shift them up. Obviously, do a lot of deadlifting.
A lot of deadlifting.
With the pulls and...
Yeah. So if you took the log, for instance, a lot of people will do overhead press. Yeah. But the difference with, say, a log is... when you're good at it, the weight, I guess, that's the first thing. But it's also the actual physical size of it. So once it's up on your chest, you can't see. So you can't see in front of you, and you look at the ceiling. So you'll see a lot of these.
You've got to try and push that up with your shoulders.
And you've got to push it up, yeah. I mean, you are allowed leg drive and everything else in strongman, and you can use supports like elbow supports and stuff like that. But the biggest thing for me was those sort of elements. It's like you've got that log on your chest, it's pushing down on your sternum, and you've got to push that up, but you can only look up. The best thing for you to do is to look up, because you can't look forward, you can't see anyone. And that's...
You probably can't breathe very well.
No, you can't. No, I mean, one of the other things that you do is, people may have done front squats and that, say, with a standard barbell, but imagine putting that 60 kilos in a sandbag on your chest and then running 20 meters with it.
Yeah.
And that is...
That's a good way to put it, actually.
That is horrible. They no matter how fit I think you are, at the end of it, you just can't breathe.
Yeah.
Because you're restricting your breath anyway. And you'll see a lot of the competitions with the pros, they're lifting double that. They're lifting 120 kilo sandbags. They're putting stuff on their body through things that we shouldn't really do.
I mean, every sport has its extreme, right? So obviously you done that because you still did that at Jets, didn't you? You did a lot
I did. That was close.
Sort of thing.
That was close after my injury. I say that
Steve has a few injuries.
I have a few injuries, and it comes with age. But I'd go through it. I tore my meniscus, and that was through training for strongman. And then I had to go through a recovery period, and that was about a year before Jets. So I was trying to go back up the scale again, and I had to do a lot of recovery. I never had it operated on. That is due soon, and
ASAP.
Yeah, very soon. And I was just trying to get over it. So Paul then took me through a lot of recovery processes with lifting and everything else, and everything was climbing really, really well. So when I saw you at Jets, it was starting to move again. So we thought, well, it's fine. I just carry on going. I just keep going, and it's going, and it's going.
I think that's in us as well. When you're in any sport, when you're like driving for something, you will just keep going, even if you have little niggles along the way. We're all bad at it, even though we shouldn't be, and we should listen to our bodies. But yeah, so
and then
that case of just pushing.
In Jets, because I kept going through the repetitions and deadlifts, I dislocated my hip. And it turns out that my knee wasn't repaired, and I damaged my hip,
because of it.
And that was the end of it. That literally was the last time I even considered it, because I just couldn't. When you're missing half a chain of something that you're using to lift, it
makes it very tough.
It makes it tough. I know. I deal with the disabled guys and stuff like that.
So Steve works with the GB Disabled Strongman team very closely. You follow all of their progress and go into their comps. And I mean, I think it's incredible, and I must have one of them on to discuss more about it, because I'm sure other people will find it super interesting. But yeah, you've always been within it. And how, obviously, what was the nutrition like? What would you do? I mean, it's very different. It's very different to what we now do, which obviously that's what we're going to go into. But what did you have to focus on anything?
I did. So going back to Paul again, his now wife, Shannon, turns out, as we're going through the process, she was a nutritionist.
Oh, amazing.
I don't actually know what my calories were. I was given meal plans and meal books, which are absolutely fantastic. And I just went through them and pick and choose each day. And some of those meals that she created that you'd think at the time, oh, is this really healthy? We still eat them as per they were, because they are just really nice. Yeah. I think the difference in strongman, say compared to bodybuilding, which we'll probably go into, is more carbs, more fats, definitely.
Yeah.
Little bit. There's a lot more fuel in the tank. and you're not trying to refine the muscle. You want to build strength. It's different.
It's a completely different purpose. And this is obviously something people need to realize as well. Like, you know, it can always shift, but the perception of that to now must be insanely different. So obviously Steve's journey from where he was at so obviously I did my competitive season. Steve filmed a lot of it. Well, all of my shows, of my shows, which I plastered all over my Instagram. And you were tempted from the first show, and then the second, and then the third. Steve came back and was like, sod it, let's go.
I think it was watching not only what you did, and going back to the bit where you look after Nelly, I'd been through your prep for 20 plus weeks.
Yeah.
Every Thursday so I had an update.
I looked after Steve's doggo Nelly. And yeah, we had a little catch up every Thursday.
Every Thursday.
Still do.
And I literally went through that whole process with you. And I think I started getting into it way back.
Yeah.
But then when you go and see what you did and your results, you're like, whoa, you know, that's incredible. Yeah. And have I got the determination at the age of 51 to start thinking about that?
Absolutely.
Well, it turns out I might have.
It's fascinating as well, and it probably following the journey through my bodybuilding journey to what you've always necessarily known with nutrition to building strength for the sort of comps that you did do or push for. It's entirely different in how we flip it. And probably I imagine that probably changed a lot as the time went on for a billion weeks of what it sometimes felt like.
yeah, I think.
For me anyway.
Yeah, the two, strongman, well actually strongman, Olympic lifting, whatever you want to call it, powerlifting and bodybuilding can, you know, people think that's gym. Well, it's not just gym because there's a big difference.
Nothing alike.
No, that's right.
They all have their amazingness, but they're all so different.
They're all so different. And it's not only on the training side, but it's also on the nutrition side. I think it's definitely different. I'm really enjoying it now because Emily's made a fundamental difference to the way I look, which has been great because I've obviously got a target. We've sort of got our little targets that we've been talking about and what I want to do. But the change in nutrition hasn't been scary. No,
and I think the most amazing thing since we started. So when did we start? It was like September time.
October. It was after Wales.
Yeah. So I finished my first show at the start of September, and on my last show, finished my season in September, and we sat down and we sort of set some goals, but you didn't really know what was on the other side. But that's the beauty of it, because I did exactly the same when I when I had my first coach, and also with John. Didn't know what was on the other side, didn't know what was going to happen. But we sat down, sort of laid out how we're going to start it. And it we took time. But the most baffling thing I can probably imagine for you was that I actually pretty much doubled Steve's food intake.
Yeah, you did. So in my floundering, I was floundering in the middle, and you said, we did a bit of tracking, or I did a bit of tracking.
Yeah, because that's what I always say. You've got to have that starting point to kind of know what you're eating currently, because not a lot of people do. And Steve sent it back to me, and I was like, no. We need more fuel.
It was nothing, and that's a key thing.
For the training that you did as well.
Yeah. I mean, I train hard, and that's something that people need to be aware of, because I was under fueling my body, and when you under fuel that badly, your body literally grabs everything.
Yeah.
So I was overweight, and you think, well, he's hardly eating anything, but it's grabbing all the bad stuff. You know, your body's starving. It just wants to eat the lot.
And also by that point, we're more, I don't know, I can't think of the word. We're more inclined to turn to things like that when we are a little bit underfueled, because we feel a bit that's why cravings come in and
Sugar's the one. It used to give you peaks and troughs, and that's what you would do. So you're not eating properly, you're not full, and then you turn to the chocolate bar. Well, that's not doing you any favours straight away, and that really is what my life was. That's what I was doing. I was living on caffeine and sugar, I think.
I think a lot of people do. We all love all the good stuff, and there's a time and a place at all times. You know, at Christmas and stuff. You never want to restrict it entirely, because then we're never going to want it. But you want to know the purpose for what the target you want is. I don't think any of that came out right. But if you have a goal, you can go for it. It's temporary. Like little diet breaks, little time away, sort of headspace time is what I would say. When you have those more indulgent times, like a holiday or a Christmas
knowing
break
that that's coming, that's how it works. Knowing that one day, it's not like this is your life forever and you will be on this every day for the next 10 years.
You won't.
You wouldn't do it. So knowing that with the way you work with me.
And also having a bit of balance, you know, when we're not working for extreme. It's not like we're in a stage prep. You know, you don't necessarily need to have those such restrictive protocols in place. There's a time and a place for things like that, but it's not sustainable to prolong for a long period of time.
And you earn it. That's the thing, you earn it, don't you?
Well, I'm not the biggest fan of saying earning because it makes it sound horrendous, but I understand in the sense that it's so much like, I don't know, I'm going to use a cookie as an example because I'm cookie obsessed, but like the cookie tastes so much sweeter and so much better when like you haven't got it at your disposal all day, every day. Like,
I think I've going on to that nutrition, I think I've got to find my prime escape food. So when you let me go at Christmas, as it were, for the 2 days we were doing, I don't think much of it really worked because I just was in such this sort of, not a health kick, but just eating so well.
And you get used to it. And also then you just, it's just in everyday life. But I
probably sound boring, but I'm not being boring.
We were excited. The first off-plan meal I gave Steve, he had jam roly-poly?
Or something like that. Yeah, it was, yeah. And then
apple strudel or something like that.
And my body just went, oh my word, what have you done? And it was just like sugar. It kept me awake for like 4 days. It didn't really, but it's, you know, it was nice at the time and it tastes nice, but then my body was literally going, why have you done that?
Yeah,
you know?
And sometimes our bodies can appreciate it. Sometimes they're not actually that fussed, and then it makes us realise when we sit on the other side of it, we don't need that as much as we think we do. And our heads work very, very different to what our body actually needs, which is always a bit of a shock. But I think the biggest shock for you as well, in terms of when I said I doubled food, we have got the carbohydrates. That took a while.
Yeah, it did.
To really, really grasp of how much you were intaking.
Understanding them. Just really, truly understanding them. Yeah. You've done that bit where you said... and
around training.
Like, for instance, don't be scared of bread. Right? You know, you've done that. You did that one with John, I think. You were talking about that. And it's really trying to... All those horrible diets that are out there that we don't mention or discuss or talk about, the ones that don't really work, they get you fearful of certain foods, and let's take bread as one of them. Yeah. And I think
that's a massive one, and especially in diet culture.
It is. And you sort of look at it all, and then once you learn and you scan and you learn and you get through it all, I think I've had tuna sandwiches 4 times now since that podcast with John. I literally went, bread's not evil and I love tuna. So that was...
Tuna's great.
Yeah. So there's bits like that I've really enjoyed. I've soaked it up. It's been absolutely fantastic. But I think compared to Strongman and now, I think people get the idea that Strongmen, they eat everything. There's been too much in the social media where they're sat there eating a fry-up that would feed a family of 10. Yeah. They don't actually do that. Yeah. The pros don't do it. You know, they're very much like the bodybuilding thing, but they just...
I think the hard thing is even from... Martin, obviously, is a disabled strongman in Jets, where I still work. He's really struggling at the moment because it's so much clean food, but you've got to eat so much of it to hit those calories that you could probably easily hit on slightly less food, but with more processed food. But it's a real shock to the system when I think we understand actually how much we need to eat to grow. Yeah, whether you're a bodybuilder or powerlifter or strongman or anything like that. So the volume must be...
It is. A lot. I think you read a few articles. I think a lot of the big pros do like 80% clean, 20% dirty, because they're on 10,000 calories a day.
We need a little
Yeah. So if they can eat a tub of ice cream, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. And again, it has that purpose as well for that specific goal that they've set.
But what you've done for me and the way I'm tracking it now is just it's almost I don't want to say it, but it's almost effortless, the way the weight is shifted and the way
it's seamless now. We haven't really changed it
too much.
I haven't changed your food, I don't think, once.
No.
So Steve's food stayed the same since September, October. Your cardio hasn't really changed, I don't think, at all. We've switched up training program over the phases that we've pushed through. So we've just started a new training program for the new year.
Yeah.
But it's almost one of those things, and John says it to me all the time, if it's not broken, don't fix it. Like, if everything's moving exactly how it needs to and how the body wants to respond and how we expect it to respond, because there are external factors. For example, like, there's expectations around, you were really inflamed after you had one of those massages with Charlie.
Yeah.
So obviously weight had increased because water retention's a bit higher and we're feeling really sore and inflamed. And when we've done specific workouts, again, we can be inflamed and water retention go up. Same as when we enjoy Christmas. I'd be disappointed if everyone lost loads of weight. Do you know what I mean? Like, not that we went absolutely crazy over Christmas.
No.
All it was, get back, normal routine. Okay, body's happy, we're
back where I am.
But
yeah.
And it's no worries, and it's been no stress, and I think that's been a change for you as well.
Yeah.
In terms of actually breathing and being human as well, and knowing that actually that changes nothing about that process either.
No, I think for me the training, the physical training differences are
training's very different.
Are humbling.
We did a lot of work with training, and I think the biggest shock, I guess, for you was probably tempo and weight. Like, you now...
Yeah.
Well, I always say to people, and myself, like, even John says it to me, I don't actually care what you lift. And obviously that was probably really weird for you to start with.
It was, and it is...
Because you have to strip everything back.
When you're dealing with intensity, so if you say strongman, your goal is to lift the heaviest thing.
Yeah.
That's in front of you. I mean, they do so many for 60 seconds and stuff like that. And you train with that, that's your intensity.
Yeah.
And the sessions are, you'll see some people, I mean, the guys I train don't do it that way, but you'll see some say that strongmen are training at about 85% nearly every session of output, you know, sort of, if you're going to do it as an RPE, like an 8 or 9 every time. I can't believe that's exactly true, because they'd have nothing left in the tank when they got to the final competition that they're training for. But they are literally, it's intense, and it's not about volume. Yeah. And that's what I'm finding with this now. Is volume.
Reps are hard. And it's also having that variety. Like, you have there are some things for staple sets, like your rep ranges of 8 to 12, but then we sometimes have the higher rep ranges of, you know, heading into that 15 to 20 reps. And then
you're doing the 15 to 20s to me now. I was like...
And then you're doing 100 lunges, but it's fine because I do them too. And it's really baffling when you sort of give those rep ranges. I think it's just normalised that when people start the gym, sets of 8 to 10, 10 to 8 to 12. But actually, it's when you start playing around with those different rep ranges and different amounts of sets that it can really change the game of the intensity that you're bringing to training and how it flipping feels. Like, it's savage.
Yeah, and then throw in the tempo. And then... It's so if I was going to summarize very quickly between bodybuilding and saying strongman, strongman is painful. Yeah, it hurts.
Yeah,
and I would say that the bodybuilder. I don't like to say I'm a bodybuilder now. Let's do that probably in 12 months. I'd say it burns, if that makes sense, because it burns. Everything burns.
Your body just decides to stop.
Yeah, and it's all about acid and everything else, and it's just like every muscle you got is just.
And you can probably feel what. I don't know. Obviously, I've never done anything strongman, and I don't intend to. But obviously, when we push in bodybuilding and we're pushing to get a pump and all that blood flow, does it feel like a pump in strongman?
I'd say.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. I think.
Does it feel similar?
No, everything just seems to ache. It's like the only way I can describe it is like if you go, like, for instance, running with a yoke, and you're doing when I was doing yoke training and you're doing like 40 meters, so you're doing 40, but you're only going to do 20 at comp. At the end of that, you are, I was literally exhausted and everything hurt.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with the training we're doing at the moment, it's intense in its own way, but my recovery seems a lot easier. And once the recovery's over, Nothing's broken.
And also because you're prioritizing recovery, sleep, protein, all of that as well. And making sure that everything's lined up, ready to go. Everything seems, like we said earlier, just a little bit more clockwork and more seamless to follow, and especially on from the journey. And obviously we've come so far, and I feel like we're only just scratching the surface.
I know.
But you've come so far, and obviously we're trying and push for a photo shoot. I'm speaking this on here, so then it's got to be done.
Well, that's been committed now, isn't it? Yeah.
But and you can have those long-term goals, but equally there's no rush, which is what we've always said. Even from when we started in September, October, we said, there is no rush. And the goalposts can always shift from when you did strongman, from when you did more of those like run type things. You don't always have to have the same goal. And also, it's never too late. I want to highlight, and I don't know how that feels for you to say it. Obviously, I can't really. It
is never too late. It sounds really easy to say, just to sit here, but I'm 50. I've just turned 51, or 51 late last year, and it isn't too late. No. It just isn't. If you want to do it,
you're only going to better your body every single step of the way, and the longevity of it, and understanding how the body moves, and you're inspiring your like friends and family as well. And that's incredible. Like, you don't just have to accept that you're, I don't like saying this, old and just don't have to do anything, and you just want to sit and chill, because I know a lot of people your age think like that.
Yeah, they do.
You can get up and move too. It doesn't have to be necessarily to the extent that Steve is, or what I do, or what necessarily John does, or anything like that. But if moving 3 times a week and just getting in the gym just to get on the treadmill, or do some core work or something small, cool. Like, that's amazing for you and your body as well. And I think,
and it is, and I think that saying that I've got the operation coming up soon, some of the questions they ask you, you sort of get that impression that people of my age will be sat still. And they said to me, are you able to go up 2 flights of stairs without being out of breath? I went, I did 42 this morning.
They asked that?
They asked me, and I went, I did 42 flights this morning on the Stairmaster. She went, you'll probably be okay then.
And it just highlights that actually when we have these little niggles and things, because, as people get older, those things happen. That is natural. We've been through a lot. Our bodies get put through a lot in life. But you can better your recovery. You can better all of those things that actually, when you have an operation like that, you're not dreading that you're going to be out of work or moving for 6 months. That actually, in hope that we necessarily don't know the recovery after, but we know your body is in the best possible position now. That
we're confident it'll be quick.
4 or 5 months ago, where it's gonna, it would have felt entirely different, and it would have felt a lot tougher.
Lighter, fitter, and healthier. I'm gonna fly through it.
There we go. I feel like that should be the motto for the new year. And it's been so good having you on.
Thank you for having me.
To talk about such different journeys that you've been on, and where your head's at now, and the incredible what's to come for this year. So more to come on the poddy, I'm sure, and more to talk about Strongman, as I'd love to have Martin and yourself in actually to talk a little bit more about that. Thank you so much for joining us today in a slightly different location, and I shall see you on the next episode. A big thank you for joining me on my channel and tuning in. Find me on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon and YouTube, A Diary to Empower. Follow me on Instagram, m_power.fitness, and TikTok, m.ibert. See you on the next episode.